Welcome. I'm Lawrence Pugliese, and this is Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes. Today's guest is Diane Boone, publisher, community activist, and organizer of the annual Festival of Unity. Before we embark on a discussion with Diane Boone, I have a little essay for you. A leather shoe, 5,500 years old, stuffed with grass to keep its form. The eyelets for the twine were broken and repaired. The imprint of a big toe is apparent. It was probably worn by a female on her right foot. This in a hole inside a cave encased in yellow clay. In the country we call today Armenia, archaeologists presume the humans who occupied this abode were of significant status. It appears they may have had a set of servants too. 5,500 years ago, pre-kings and queens, pre-bureaucracy, during the Copper Age, the wheel discovered, our collective human genome evolving toward this moment, if you like to organize and categorize time linear, space and pace and the ways of man and woman, civilized deemed, gleaned subjective. Are you any further along than them? Were these aristocrats with leather shoes better situated 5,500 years ago than you? What do we have to show for all our species' experience in the physical world as part of this visceral journey? Could you characterize clearly for me, Mr. and Ms. Well-educated attorney, Alouette, jonte, alouette, alouette, jonte plumere. Good evening and good day. To the shoe, a spiritual soiree. All right. Now, as promised, a conversation with Diane Boone. Diane? Hey?
Hi, Larry.
How are you?
It's great to be on your show again.
Yeah, this might be the third time.
Yeah, I think so.
Is it the third time?
At least.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's good to have you. And I have a list of questions. We were here a little earlier, and Mark McGlory, the executive director, walked in. He said it was very studious in this room. It looked like a library because both of us were jotting down notes, not talking to each other. So now we're going to show you the fruits of that organization. Here's question number one. Explain the notion one true community. Something you hit me with a couple days ago. One true community. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, that's my vision. And doing a festival, my vision has always been one true community. There's a day. Okay, right now as a day, the Unity Festival, a day where everyone comes together for fellowship, cross-cultural social interaction, truly getting to know something that is different, spending time caring about something other than our own selves. That's a true community, is really taking time to know about others. So that's part of my vision in the Unity Festival, a day where we all come together and not in the interest of what I like and what I'm used to, but what I don't know about and taking time to experience it.
I like that. And you say the word one. So to me that means not segregated or separated.
Well, what I find in events, you know, we may do diversity events, people come together, but when you look at the event, people are in their own comfort zones. They're not really mingling. They're coming to see what is comfortable for them. Instead of stepping outside of the comfort zone to know that you're not going to find what's comfortable, but going to learn what's different. And really being open to that. And not just for the day or for the hour until you can escape, but to include that in your life and throughout the year. Like, you meet somebody, you have social interaction with somebody different, and then you see them, next month, and you remember their name, or you talk to them, you speak. You know, there's many times I walk through town and some people don't feel comfortable speaking. I know they want to, I see it, you know. And sometimes I don't feel comfortable speaking. But you know,
nature, I guess, to a certain
yeah,
extent.
yeah, but that's because we really haven't gotten to know each other. We really haven't stepped outside of our comfort zone. And I'm one that, I tend to step outside of my comfort zone. I go to the place I've never been.
Well, what do people stand to gain from, you know, stepping outside of the comfort zone? Because when you say comfort, people like to be comfortable. They like to feel secure. So how do you convince someone that it's worthwhile?
Leadership is stepping outside of your comfort zone. You can't grow if you don't step outside of your comfort zone. I mean, that's a part of growth, is stepping outside. And not to be uncomfortable. When I go to, let's say, a Latino festival and people are speaking Spanish, you know, generally you feel uncomfortable because you don't know what they're saying. But if you're there for a while, or you trouble yourself to kind of learn and understand, or just see, or just enjoy, then the next time is less uncomfortable, and then next thing you know somebody, and next thing you know, you may have an interest to learn Spanish, and then you're looking forward to going. But it's a process of, you know, doing something different. I live my life outside of the comfort zone. Being a mother of 5, a single mother of 5, you know, you get comfortable with being outside of your comfort zone. So.
Not a necessity.
But so many people, and that's a part of leadership. Leadership, growing, development is taking the initiative, doing something different, going where people say, oh, that's not for us, that's for them. I'm like, really? Let's see. And then being welcomed, because you can't be welcomed until you take the step. You know?
Right. The initiative, and show that you're interested.
Right.
And the way you're describing it, really, it expands if you do this. If you go outside of the smaller space that you call it your comfort zone, and you get to know other areas, you're expanding that comfort zone in a way.
Right.
You're expanding your realm of existence.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. But it feels uncomfortable when you begin.
Initially, yeah.
And it's always an excuse not to, like, okay, we'll just stay here. We'll just do this because this is what is accepted. This is what's normal, and I know everybody here.
Right.
But, you know, to walk in a room where you don't know anybody is one thing, but to walk into a culture that you don't know is another. But to create, like the Unity Festival creates an atmosphere where you don't really have to be uncomfortable stepping outside your comfort zone.
Well, yeah, it's really psychological.
Yes,
I mean, but realistically, if you're open, it's a very nice atmosphere. I've been to a few of the festivals. It's a very positive, a lot of energy.
Yeah, always, you know. And
Good
we have
people.
a lot of great festivals and cultural events in this area, Lackawanna County. And this one, you know, the Unity Festival, I try to bring a piece of all of them. That's my goal, is to bring a piece of all of them under one sky for a day of fellowship. Like, I can go to the Italian Festival and taste all the Italian flavors all day long. And I go to the Greek Festival and the Polish Festival. But if we had a festival where there's each one are there and actually having cross-cultural, social interaction, you know, so that I can go to their restaurant later in the year and I know this guy,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
had some of this stuff at the
Right. That's what I want to see begin. If it may be for me, maybe other people do this, but, you know, from where I'm coming from, that's my break into, you know, really appreciating the city of Scranton, the county of Lackawanna, and Northeast Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
You know.
I was thinking the same thing. And in essence, you can call it, if we look at ourselves as one community, the Scranton Festival.
Right.
You know, for real.
The true community festival.
Yeah.
The community
Yeah,
festival.
it is. The
Yeah.
community of Scranton, or the community of Northeastern Pennsylvania Festival, if we do indeed come together. Not just, I mean, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind addressing this, people will look at this festival and say, oh, this is the Black Festival, or the African American Festival, or the People of Color Festival, or some disparaging terms for the haters, but we're not even going to go there. But people that are honestly, you know, just of a misconception that this is not for them. This is for the minority groups. How do you address that?
Why? Is it because I'm organizing it?
I
Does that
suppose.
make it a black festival because I'm organizing it?
I suppose people categorize based on physicality oftentimes, you know that.
Right, right.
So how do you address that? I mean, they might think this is not, I mean, it's nice, I'm glad those people are having a festival, you know, but that's not me, it's those people.
Right, right.
How do you address that?
Well, I try to address it, even within the African American community. You know, like we want to have something that we call our own, and this we can call our own, but we cannot, make it exclusive. I'm like, this is our own because it's our idea. We came up with it. You know, the people that have been helping me working with it.
You're talking about the African American community.
The African American community, but it is not an event, in my idea in bringing it together as it from the beginning to always, it's always been something that brings unity into the community, introduce us or keep us from separating ourselves, and really welcoming the whole community, the whole of Scranton, the different people of Scranton, the merging cultures of Scranton. That's what I've always seen it as, and that's what I always address it as. And people want to really assume that because it welcomes the African American and the Latino culture, that it's either a black thing or it's a Spanish thing or it's their thing, and it's not really the general thing. But I want it to be the general thing, just as general as any other event. Even though they may be cultural and whatever, but still, generally people feel welcome coming to those. I want them to feel welcome coming to this one.
Well, I guess if you know how I have part of my life focused on numbers, and mathematical concepts and that sort of deal. So I'm going to break it down in that manner for a moment. In northeastern Pennsylvania, in Scranton, more specifically, if you break down the number of people who would call themselves European American or Caucasian as compared to people who do not consider themselves European American and or Caucasian, people that consider themselves maybe African American or Latino or Hispanic, or there are so many different terms, Asian. There's a significantly smaller number of people from the communities that are not European American, that are not Caucasian. So in general, anybody, what I'm trying to get at is anybody who's from the majority here, if they're going to go to this festival, they're going to be maybe in the minority. So in a way, it is to them
stepping outside
the
comfort zone.
Yeah, and maybe they'll say, this is not my community because I'm used to a community.
We all live here. We all live here, and that's the part where you may want to know who the other people are, because they're just as important. To me, it's just as important. My goal, my ultimate goal, my life work is going to be to eliminate that concept of a minority people. All people should be the same. And minority, majority, it doesn't matter if it's a little or a few, we're just people. And as long as we have, and this goes on in the African American community and the Latino community, viewing themselves as minority, it goes deeper than the count. It goes into thinking you're less worthy. Or it goes to the majority thinking that we're less important. And I'm going to change that.
That's internalized.
It's internalized, yeah, because
racism or discrimination, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say. I'm not even going to go into the issue of racism or discrimination, but how a person feels considering themselves minor.
Right.
It's effective.
And I know there are some folks, most folks I would imagine, who say minority. They probably look at it in terms of numbers.
Right.
But the word does mean, you make a good point. It does imply minor. Not major.
Important, you know. If the numbers, if you're going with the big numbers, then
we're
not as important.
You work with the census. You know that it's an odd situation because we don't want to categorize. Yet to understand the reality at the moment, one of the better ways, if not the perfect way or the fairest way in terms of how people feel, is to categorize.
Right.
That's the only way we understand. That's what we do. So it's like a catch-22 almost. We want to know there's certain people that seem to be treated or seem to have a certain experience based on a physical characteristic or a heritage for some reason. So we categorize them so we can understand how bad that situation is or how far-reaching it is, and then we can address it. Those are good intentions, but do they also propagate the mentality that these folks are those kinds of people, or they're lesser, or what have you? So it's a catch again. 20.
Well, working for the census, I got to learn, a lot about why it's important to, why they categorize people and need to know, and the demographics and all, all of that, and how it's used for marketing and how it's used to distribute $400 billion of federal funding. So it makes sense, and it needs to be done. But still, on the same token, generally people, when they say minority or what we have developed as minority and majority, also has the negative implications of minority, like, oh, y'all minor people, your issues don't matter, you're just a small group, and we're going to focus on, what the most people care about. If there's more people here and they got dollars, then of course we're going to get more dollars from this segment votes, than we are from there. So we're going to go over here, and and then these people,
it's efficient,
that are considered minority feel like, well, it's not going to make a difference if we participate or not. Just like what difference does our vote make? What difference does this make?
We don't have an impact.
Well, what if we got rid of minority? What would you do then? How would you define yourself?
Well, in that regard, I understand it would probably help people have a more open and maybe positive sense of self. But in terms of if there's a certain group of people based on, again, heritage or education level or socioeconomics or physical characteristic that are having the same sort of challenge or the same sort of injustice day to day, you have to be able to see that. And if you have no category, maybe you won't see it, then you can't address it.
Or if you have the category, then it's a problem as well as anybody else that's having that problem, instead of thinking that the problem is only stuck in this minor group.
Don't you think it's class? Really? I mean, money?
Yeah.
Socioeconomics?
Yes.
It just so happens per capita there are certain groups that deal with poverty per capita more so than other groups. But poverty crosses all lines.
Poverty is a state of mind, and that goes back to thinking that you're a minor again, or you don't have the power to change your circumstances, Poverty is not feeling important enough or thinking you're worthy to have more than you have in your life. So it's still a state of mind. It's still, how being categorized as minority affects you. Poverty can be in the majority as much as it is in a minority, but because you are a minority, you feel more inclined to accept poverty, whereas the majority say, I'll pull myself up out of this or whatever. But it's a state of mind. It really is. And I think with unity, when you say, bring your cultural heritage, show it, express it, let us see it, and you become proud of it, then you can't use it as an excuse for, your life circumstance. So once you become proud of who you are and not afraid to express it and share it with other people, it no longer becomes your excuse. It no longer becomes your minority situation or whatever it is. It's a lot rolling in my head, but I know that we got to get away from being minority, as it is implied, even though we are, as a group, smaller than maybe the other group, but Scranton is Scranton, and the people in Scranton, we all should be focused on want the same things for our community. Yeah. So it shouldn't be a minority community and a majority community. It should be one true community.
Wow, we went right around to the beginning statement of this part of the conversation.
It came back, I don't know how.
It did, one true community.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
We can go off on that further and further, and we probably will revisit it, because this is the crux of the whole thing, really. This whole sense of community and diversity, yet similarity.
Right.
As humans.
As humans, yeah. Diversity, and there's a pretense of we have events and then we all go back to our own little separate corners. And there's been times, I put myself out there and I never got the phone call. I'm still waiting for, somebody to call me after the show,
Right.
And it doesn't happen.
That day it was all there, but
yeah,
afterwards you go back to your comfort zones, and that's that.
Yeah.
You don't reach out.
Yeah, I want to continue a relationship, and Nobody answers the phone, or nobody calls, or nobody invites, and then I understand that. I mean, it's the same thing, but it's time in the universe that's going away, and I'm there with it. I'm ready
You
for
see
it.
it going away?
Yeah, I know
More
it
so?
is. Mhm.
I mean, globally,
Globally, people, I really don't believe, like, there's a lot of racism going on, and people talk about discrimination. I think, that is not real, that's fading away, and what's left is the residue of those thoughts and thinking or feeling guilty or blaming, using those excuses for not moving forward. But actually, it doesn't exist if you don't focus on it. If you don't allow that to stop discrimination, if you know how to move forward past it, it can't stop you and it goes away. And I think we're in that era where actual true racism and discrimination is going to dissolve and go away once we address, being proud of our cultures and being proud and respectful of other people's culture, and then just knowing people are people. And in this town, people will help you. It doesn't matter, but there's that barrier. Okay, I won't ask her because she might think that I'm trying to be funny because she's black and I'm whatever, and people don't want to, start the conversation. So what greater place than the Unity Festival? You got a chance to start that conversation, so you won't be afraid to, what do I call it, African American or black, or,
Right.
So.
Right.
And then the same thing in the Latino community. What do I say, Hispanic or Latino? Because
Depends on both.
yeah, well, there's an issue with being called Hispanic.
Because it relates back to the conquistadors. But other people say, no, I like Hispanic.
Yeah.
It depends. Same thing with black.
Now you get confused and you rather not.
Because you don't know.
Because you don't
it's
want
not clear.
Yeah, because you really want to embrace the person, but you don't want to offend them trying to embrace themselves. Come to the Unity Festival. Have a day of true cross-cultural social interaction, and then you'll know someone later on you can go visit and talk to, and really they won't mind telling you, what are the do's and the don'ts. And there's always do's and don'ts.
Right, you can't ever be perfect. No,
No.
I mean, you can't know all the
I'll make
answers.
mistakes all the
Of
time.
course, and you can't be that hung up. Have that kind of,
We are afraid because everyone wants to be politically correct.
I
You
don't
can
like that.
destroy your whole career if you say the wrong
I don't like political
words.
correctness.
That's
I think
crazy.
it keeps people from communicating for
Right,
real.
right.
By the way, Diane Boone, this is Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes. I'm Lawrence Pugliese. Anthony George is behind the camera doing all the technical work. This is Electric City Television. Nice to have you with us. And we've been mentioning the Unity Festival over and over again, but we didn't even tell anybody the date.
Oh.
We should mention the date. July 10, right? July 10, Saturday, July 10th, 2010. Bring your lawn chair and a blanket. And it starts at 10 a.m. at Naog Park in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And it goes until 8 p.m., July 10th, 2010, 6th Annual Festival of Unity. And a lot of good acts. We have Seska Sankare Fasimbas, and that's, is that?
That's dub reggae. It's a different style of reggae music.
And DK Knuckles and DJ Mel Star.
That is, they're DJing in between the performances. They'll be.
So they're like the
keeping
MCs
crowd.
almost?
Yes.
And
And
then-
they brought by, what is the name of, Distinguished Gentleman.
Yep, music and entertainment by Distinguished Gentlemen Entertainment.
Right.
Okay, so that's their company.
Right.
And then, everybody knows this guy. He's one of Scranton's great artists. Clarence Spady will be there.
And he'll be performing with Joe Moore on bass.
Oh, Joe
They
Moore.
they usually play together.
Yeah,
You
Joe's
probably
great.
know him.
Yeah, I've seen Clarence many
Yeah.
times. Wally and the Paw Packs. You know what style that is?
Well, I can't say for sure, but it sounds a little rock,
R&B
soft
maybe?
rock. Yeah, they nice music. I've heard their music, and they agreed to come and perform for us. So,
Awesome. Diana Shahine, is that right?
I'm not. Yeah, that's.
I think it's Diana Shahine.
Yes.
She's a dancer?
She's a dancer, Arabian dance, belly dancing. She's going to bring her. She actually teaches dance, and she's going to bring her dancers
Awesome.
to perform.
And I know one of the young women in this group, Rachel Dare. This is the Lotus Fire Belly Dancers.
They are going to do an awesome fire dance in the evening with fire, and they'll do a fan dance, and they always do wonderful. People love to see them.
Awesome.
She's always there every year, so.
Yeah, Rachel's cool.
Thank you, Rachel.
And the Brook Valley Farm pony rides, and we have Latin DJ spin-off ensemble as well.
Yeah, we will have about 6 different Latin DJs playing the different genres of Latino music. So that's going to be interesting because we think it's just Latin. Yeah, right.
There's so many different countries and cultures that,
Right.
that are associated with Latino.
Right.
And then the Sojourner Truth Symposium, sponsored by the United Cultures Leadership Institute. We're going to focus on a question: what or who is Scranton?
Who is Scranton?
Who is Scranton? And we're not going to tell you any more about that question, but you should come and be a part of that conversation. We're going to have a great panel of different perspectives and great communicators, and you could be part of it too. We'll have a mic there for the guests to chime in. So, I mean, these are just a few of the things. There'll be food there. Where's the...
Now, one thing I wanted to mention is
Go
we'll
ahead.
be working with the American Red Cross. They're going to be there, you know, to do a blood drive, you know, to reach the African American and Latino community, because we have a different type of blood that, you know, it's hard for them to get because we don't generally donate blood. So I'm going to be, you know, encouraging people in the African American and Latino community to donate blood because of the difference in our blood, and they really need it. So
Oh, wow, that's excellent.
they're going to do a blood drive, actually, yeah.
Excellent. And for more information, unityfestival.worldpress.com. unityfestival.worldpress.com.
WordPress.
WordPress, I'm sorry. I'm looking at world because it just makes sense. Unity World. Unityfestival.word, W-O-R-D, press.com. And you can get some more information about the festival. And if you're watching this interview after the festival, that's okay. The larger part of the discussion here is about unity. It's about one true community in northeastern Pennsylvania and beyond, with Diane Boone, who is the organizer of the festival. But the conversation is bigger than the festival. The festival is just one of the manifestations of your vision, of your passion, of your philosophy. And it's good to have you here. You've been here a few times at this table, and I love it every time. Okay, we talked about one true community for quite a while. Now let's go to the whole festival itself. How has it evolved as in terms of politics? Has it been hard organizing a festival with so many different types of groups?
Yeah, pretty much so. Yeah, it's been difficult. You know, the first 5 years, you know, it's sort of like a single-handed project, and you know, it takes on its own life on what it wants to be. And my goal is to always just keep that unity open, and my hope is one day that, you know, we'll have the Italian vendors and the Greek vendors and the Irish vendors and performances and things like that included until it grows, until every segment of Lackawanna County or Northeast PA is represented as people, as different cultures is there.
Do you reach out to those more
Yeah,
European
try,
vendors, and
yeah.
you don't get much of a response?
No, well, you know, and they're skeptical because, you know, there's a undertone when you think it's going to be hip hop or terrible stuff, but it's not. Our festivals have been incident free for 5 years. You know, it's family oriented, and it's always been great. And when I audition my performers that do rap and hip hop, which I love, my kids love, and the young people love it, so I'm not going to leave it out. It's a part of our culture. But they know what's required. They get told what they can and cannot do, and what they can and cannot say. Right? No lewd performances, no nudity. You know, the
No
things.
costume malfunctions.
Right. Exactly. And they love it. They love the idea of you know, being disciplined.
Having standards.
Yeah, having standards. They do like it. And this year we're doing auditions at the Oasis on Pittston Avenue, and the kids, you know, we tell them, we want to see the show as you're going to perform it. And if we don't think it's appropriate for young, you know, children or a general audience, then, you know, we give them a chance to clean it up Well, this is the second one. This is the last chance. It's either clean or it's out.
Oh, so the Oasis is the second audition. You have more than one audition.
Well, we had one earlier, but they weren't quite prepared, you know. So, you know, some of them came in and they didn't have good language, and it wasn't like it was profanity, but it's got to be a good message as well.
Because it's family oriented.
Right, right.
So
So we gave them a second chance, and that'll be on the 19th, next,
June.
yeah, 19th of June at 1 o'clock at the Oasis.
that would be Friday, I think. Because
It's Saturday.
is it Saturday? Yeah.
Yeah,
You're right. It is Saturday. I'm messing everything up.
Don't
Saturday.
scare me.
No, you're right. Saturday.
Yeah,
Saturday.
yeah.
I like the way you're organizing it. This sounds like a huge task, though. But as time has gone on, you see more people grabbing onto it, more people embracing it,
More
supporting
people
it.
help, especially this year, a lot of people, and it started with, you know, I have vendors that have been there since the first event, and they knew that I was about ready to give it up, and they said, no, we'll help, and help came along, and then I met Andre, a distinguished gentleman, and he helped, you know, helping to promote it and stuff, because I was really like, you know, down to my wits, and not wanting to give it up, but not really wanting to keep trying to do all this. So, you know, people are coming, you know, people are picking up on it. They're finally hearing about it. And it takes a while for something to germinate. And I just realized that. But yeah, I have hope this time.
Well, just reflecting on everything you've been saying, you know, Scranton has grown in many ways. Although numbers have decreased, Lackawanna County's numbers have gone up a bit. There are more people here from different backgrounds other than just European American. There are more people of color, people of various heritage. And it seems what you're doing is at least one means of bringing those communities together in an organized fashion to showcase, as you said, what their special offerings are to the community. Yeah, who is Scranton?
Really is it.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah.
It's neat, and that can just blossom into many other connections and bridges within that growing part of our community, and then the larger community that's been here for a while already.
Right.
You know, it's a wonderful idea. It's great.
One of the things that I envision is, you know, like bringing the merging cultures together with the traditional cultures.
Right.
You know, we don't want to step on the traditional cultures because Scranton has wonderful traditional culture going on. It's live and it's proud, and I just want, like, the merging cultures, you be live and proud as well, and respect what is here and be a part of it. You know, you don't just come in and ignore that. You can't ignore the Italian festival. You could be, 6 miles away and smell it. You know, you can't ignore it. So when the Greek festival is going on, you cannot ignore it.
No.
But you can also, you know, you can participate in that and include yourself. If you're going to live here, include yourself.
That's a better way of life, really.
Yeah.
And you know, the folks now that you're mentioning, the Italian or the Irish, the St. Patrick's Day Parade and other things that they are involved in, Greeks, what have you, 100 years ago, they were the emerging cultures. And they, you know, hopefully they remember that their ancestors had to deal with acceptance and had to deal with the sort of strife that the present day emerging cultures are dealing with. Then maybe they'll have a little more empathy and understanding.
Well, I think,
You think?
I think it's welcoming. It's just we're awkward about getting together.
You have-
So here I created an opportunity. Let's get together. You know, it's been awkward. You know, I've heard like the St. Patrick's Day Parade. They had, you know, performances of different cultures and stuff, and I thought it was great.
Yeah.
They thought it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not that I don't think that they're accepting or, you know, they trying to hold us back. It just hasn't been that venue. I'm creating a venue. I like to see us all get together. I really like to have the Irish, you know, performances, the Irish step
dancers.
dancers,
Yeah, they're awesome.
you know, perform. So, you know, people love to see that. I know I love it.
What's the dance that's very popular among a lot of African American fraternities? They have contests and stuff. It's very physical. It's kind of like step dancing.
Yeah.
It's like it's not stomp. It's not.
No, I know.
I can't remember the name. But
I do it all the time. I'm drawing a blank right now, and we usually have it at the festival at least one time.
There was a group that you used to have. I remember it was on the show one time.
Oh, the step dancers you're talking about.
Right. Are they called step dancers as well? That's the same thing.
Step teams.
So Irish step. It's all step.
Yeah. Well, it's like a hip hop step.
Right.
You're talking about. I thought you was talking about the dance that we do in a group.
No. No, I was talking about.
And I can't think of the name
No,
of
there,
it.
there are. I know. I've seen it on television. I've seen some competitions. There was a movie as well.
Scranton High now has a step team.
Right.
Where they, they dance to hip hop.
But is there?
music.
There's a specific name? I mean, you have Irish step dancing. What is this?
Well, I'm
Is
one
it-
of the older
is it-
people, so they might have a name other than step team, but
But
it's
you-
generally
it's a step
step
team.
teams. Yeah.
It'd be nice to see a mix of the two.
We usually have them out there, but yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like Irish step, and then you have, the step dance that we're talking about.
Yeah,
That's
that
more-
would be great, and then
Yeah.
they could see, pick up some things from each other. Maybe I don't
Right.
know, but I don't think you can change that. The Irish, is it stomp or step? It's a step.
Yeah.
Because it's
I'm
awesome.
an Italian. What do I know? We have the tarantella.
Yeah.
Uh,
But that kind of stuff, for other kids or emerging kids or kids who are just recently here, have never seen how the Irish can, do a floor, they would love it. I love it.
Dancing is dancing.
And I know the Irish would appreciate seeing how, the hip hoppers do their little step.
No doubt.
But when do you get to do that? When do you get to go? The Unity Festival, that's
The
what it's
Unity
for.
Festival. You're a great PR person, I'll tell you. Now, we have, I think another 20 minutes or so. And I want to talk to you about a couple things that are a little bit more philosophical, a little broader, all right? This is a very difficult question, I think. When I was writing it, I thought it was. So maybe I might have to read it a couple times, maybe not. How does the way you view yourself differ from the way you found others view you?
I have been asking something like that. I've been asking that question, like, how do other people view me? Because the way I view myself is, well, let's just say it like this. I've seen in the paper, I've been called a community leader or whatever, leader or whatever. And I view myself more as a servant. I just want to help change go. I just want to be a regular person. I just really started here. I was supposed to work. I wanted to go to work. And then, I just view myself as a person. And people I see or I think or I hear view me as, I don't know. I really don't know.
Differently than the way
Differently than, like as if I don't have fears and worries and problems like everybody else and struggle and suffer like everybody else. But I do. And if I find an answer to a problem that I go through, I just want to jump out and say, here's an answer. I found this answer. None of us have to suffer like this anymore, And that's just been my nature. And that's what led me to writing a publication. It's like, look, I found this out. Look, I found out that we're not stupid. If it's just that, I'll say, I just want to say it. And I wanted to bring it to a community. And when I see somebody suffering and they think they're suffering because someone else has power over them, I want to be there to let them know no one has power over you. We can, and together, we have suffering communities together. We work together with the unity. We can overcome anything. We can have everything we need. I invested 5 kids in this community. I want them to walk down the street safely, just like anybody else. And if the street ain't safe, I'm willing to get out there and make it safe. But that takes community. And I'm saying, who says we can't sweep our street? Let's sweep the street. Things like that. That's just who I am. I'm like, let's do it. I put myself out there. I've been embarrassed many times trying to do something, trying to run a paper. Yeah, I never, knew what I was doing, but I did it because my mother always said, if you find yourself saying somebody oughta, you ought to be to somebody. So I just always just go ahead and try. So that's who I am. But how other people see me is like maybe they think I know what I'm doing, or they think, you know, I don't suffer or make mistakes or trip over the wire. I don't know. What do you think?
What do I think about?
Who I am, or how you see me.
I think you're a valuable citizen to this community. That's what I think. And I mean, I
Well,
think.
you're not going to see anything bad in front of me, though.
Well, no, but the
right?
truth. This is the truth. I never really thought anything bad about you. Honestly, I mean, you could believe that or not. I think you're kind. I think you're a human being with your vulnerabilities and with your strengths. And I think with the way you described yourself is pretty accurate. You just throw yourself in there. And I'm that way as well. You know, maybe we're naive, or maybe we're arrogant because we think we could do things that we realize, holy Christ, this is harder than I thought.
People see me as arrogant because I try these different
But
things.
it's not
I don't
arrogance.
mean to be.
No, it's not arrogance necessarily. I mean, maybe it's just sometimes I think we can't help ourselves.
I can't. I know I can't. My kids will say, you know, like, why don't you just stop?
Because this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is how I enjoy myself.
Yeah,
As strange as that may sound, I
yeah.
enjoy doing this.
Well, I don't know if I enjoy it. I just
You must. to a
just
certain
can't
extent.
not do it, you know? I just can't. And I'm trying to become just a private citizen to get my life back on track. Because I wrecked myself, you know, trying to do things that was a little bit above my means or my knowledge, and just taking a chance and thinking that, you know, people would jump on and make it happen and help me. And I learned a lot. But the festival kind of took on its own life, and I love to see it keep going.
6 years is pretty impressive. You know, a lot of festivals don't go that long. And back,
Really, is that the truth?
yeah,
Every
no.
festival I see, you know, the 100th annual.
They're the
or-
ones that make it, but there's
Yeah.
just as many there are more that have started that you've never heard of.
Yeah, well, I
You
never
know,
heard. I didn't know there was
that's the
another
thing.
option. I don't know there's an option. There's only one option for me, and that's to do it. I started it. I do it.
You're onto something. And your mother, what was it that she said again? I didn't totally catch it.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
She said, if you find yourself saying somebody oughta, like there ought to be a newspaper, then you may be the person. No, wait a minute. Let me start over. This is how she said. If you find yourself saying somebody oughta, then you ought to be that somebody. Then maybe you ought to be that somebody. That's the way it goes.
I think your Jersey accent threw me off there for a second. I think.
Oughta. Oh, okay.
I didn't-
Ought to. How do you
yeah.
say it?
I would have said ought to, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oughta.
I like that. That's basically Gandhi.
Is it? Well,
Yeah.
that was her. It was like, you know, because we would people sit around, somebody ought to do this, or we ought to have a this, or we ought to have a that. Well, if you find yourself saying it, then maybe you ought to be the one to start it.
Yeah.
So I found myself saying, we ought to have a voice. You know, we need to, you know, have some way of knowing what's going on.
And thus.
And so it hit me, okay, I started a newsletter that turned into a newspaper that, you know, just carried on because somebody ought to.
Is that going to happen again, that paper, the Millennium?
I hope so. I'm working on it to bring it back. But I'm going to take my time and make sure I know I can do it.
Well, that rough patch that you alluded to, I think, though, it's probably true that you have gained wisdom and knowledge, though maybe in a difficult way, from that experience, which you should be happy about. Even though, you know, because look, you're sitting here pretty together, and I think you're definitely more, you have to be knowledgeable and wise and insightful than you were 6 years ago.
I know more about myself,
Yeah.
and I know more about the nature of people. So
You can't get that from a book, really.
that's right. I had to do it. I had to go through it, and I was crying about it when I was going through it. But I'm thanking, you know, the graces now, because I can't go further. You know, I wouldn't be able to move in the direction I'm moving in now if I hadn't have come through that. So,
You're absolutely right. I mean, that's great.
but nobody wants to go through it. That's that
No. If you had to
leaving the
choose
comfort
it-
zone part.
Yeah, if you had to choose that, if you saw
I would
it
have said
ahead-
nah. Yeah, but I'm glad I experienced it, and look, I'm still alive.
Yeah. Looking better than ever.
Thank you.
And now,
Feeling a little better.
yeah, well, I'm impressed. Not that that means anything, but I'm impressed. Now, being out there, being a leader, although maybe you don't want to be called that, an activist, a good citizen, do you find sometimes folks that are more, that you come across, about what they can gain than what they could give, but come at you with the whole notion that I'm about the community? Because I do.
Yeah.
And sometimes those folks can really, throw a wrench in things.
Yeah.
Doesn't that upset you?
Yeah, it does, and you know
How do you
what?
deal with that?
I'm looking for some advice.
Well, I deal with it by, keeping my motives pure, and when I see, addressing myself to make sure I'm doing things for the good cause, and ignoring those people because they'll go away. To me, if you're doing the right thing for the right reason, you'll last longer, you'll do better, and people will see it. And if people are out there doing things for self-gain or whatever, they'll go away eventually. And I never let them get in my way. I never let them stop me. I never let them give me doubt, because I'm driven to do what I do, and I'd rather not do what I do, but because I do what I do it for the reason that it needs to be done. That's it.
And those people are not really a main factor.
No, well, they'll either help or they won't.
Right.
But it won't stop anything that,
And I think you're right. At first, the kind of people we're talking about, they have a lot of charisma usually, and they're good at getting people,
Yeah.
convinced.
Yeah.
But that's short term. In the long term, you're right.
In the long term, I'm still there.
The people see through it.
Yeah.
If people are getting burned, or people feel that it's not genuine after watching and seeing what actually occurs from this person,
Right.
then they say, all right, no, I'm not, I trusted you, but I'm no dummy. You did me wrong. See you later.
Well, I'm not trying to do that. I know I made mistakes, and people might have seen my mistakes, but if they see all that I've done all the time, it's always the same thing. So it's moving past these limitations that are put there, forging new pathways and bridging, or creating bridges of understanding. I'm just going to be me. I want to be who I really am, and I want people to, be okay with that, because I'm okay with them. I love people. I love culture. I love and I want to be seen the same way. Like, don't be afraid. On my job, when I worked at the post office, I can say this now because I don't work there anymore. People used to wait, I know they wanted to talk and have conversation, but they would only have conversation when there was something black in the news, like James Brown died or something, and they would come to me. I said, I could talk about the weather too. You don't have to wait until you get black news or something you think I'm interested in. I'm interested in life, period. I'm not just interested in hip hop and, a black congressman or black president. I'm interested in what Hillary doing and everybody else, So I want the conversation to go easy where, I'm a person, and you don't have to feel like you have to know a little bit about African American history to have a conversation with me, because I know everything going on that I'm interested in. There's some things I don't know, but generally I can speak about anything in the news, not just Obama.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
Am I answering your questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
believe me, I would keep going at it if not. How about social justice? What is that, in your view? What does social justice mean?
Social justice. I'm not sure that everyone is treated equally, that everyone has a fair chance, that's social justice, that we start realizing that this planet belongs to all of us, all the time, every way, and what I want for me, the next person wants for themselves. What I want for my children, everyone wants for their children, and I can't understand how anyone could live outside of that mean, and living outside of that means creates injustice, where you think you have a right to a good life and someone else doesn't. So social justice is when we accept that everyone has a right to a good life, and this planet provides that for all of us. It's so amazing. We don't have to suffer. We don't have to have hunger. And when we get it, all that stuff will go away.
Yeah. Social justice. Thank you. That's good. Now, do you think, I was having a conversation with an activist today for a speaker series that I'm organizing through the United Cultures Leadership Institute. And we were talking about sexual orientation, and lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered folk, and how when someone based on their sexual orientation or gender preference is not treated fairly, it's a civil rights issue too. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Yes. I really can't. I guess I can understand people worrying about what color my Kool-Aid is. To me, it's like, if a person is decent and they live a good life and they're good citizens or whatever, why would I care, who they care to love? Why would I care? As long as they love,
Yeah.
As long as it's not affecting, if you're afraid that, well, I know some people may be afraid that it may influence their children, but if you're teaching your children well, it would only add to your children's knowledge of what people really are, because if you keep them from it and they find it later, then they become shocked and, there's a way. I don't know, it doesn't matter. I just can't see why, it's in the news, it's a lot going on about it. It's not my focus. I don't judge a person. I don't avoid a person. Sometimes I may ask more questions, but...
Because you're curious to understand?
No, because I want to know, maybe curious to understand or want to know what drives them, but that's it. I don't understand why people make someone else's lifestyle an issue for them.
Yeah, that wasn't even on the list. That one just popped into my head because of an earlier conversation I had today. And it was going along the lines of everything else you were talking about. Sexual orientation falls into that conversation we were having about everybody being given the right to live toward their dreams.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, and I was having a thought about sexual orientation and, where people are, it seems to be becoming more and more, or what causes it? If there's a cause in it, then why don't we focus more on the cause than worrying about a person and why they are?
What causes what, do you mean?
What causes, let me see, how do I put it without sounding ridiculous? What causes not phenomenon? Let's just go to the next question.
No, I think I know you're trying to be sensitive now.
Yeah.
If someone is gay, if someone is a lesbian, how does that happen? Is that the question you're asking?
Well, I do understand that that's not, I don't know how to do it. Well, if someone is gay and someone is lesbian, that's one thing or another. But then there's cultures developing of these and what causes these cultures to develop. Whereas if a person is gay or lesbian, it doesn't have to become a bar scene or a culture or whatever, because I think what causes that is the way we receive it. And then
We force them
we
to
force
create a subculture
subcultures.
because they don't feel comfortable in the majority
Right, now what
culture.
causes the subcultures that we become obsessed about is how we behave, I believe, and that's what I was looking into.
That's very interesting the way you put that. And that reminds me of this philosopher, Derrida. And I'm going to probably botch in philosophy majors and stuff. I'm going to say, you don't know what you're talking about, but regardless. Derrida, one of the things that I understood, he said, was as soon as you define something, you're automatically excluding a part of that something. Mm-hmm. So, and then that part of that something that's excluded is going to manifest itself in a negative way because it doesn't want to be excluded. Or if not in a negative way, it's going to pop up again somewhere.
Right.
You can't totally suppress it.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah, so subcultures pop up because they need to. They need to exist. And sometimes those subcultures we would deem positive, healthy. Other times they're not.
And it's becoming a culture because we're forcing them, just like you're saying. That's what I've been looking at, right?
It's, when people are treated poorly and told that they're no good, oftentimes they get involved in negative behavior, self-destructive behavior. Now, if you're not the norm, which means you're not like most everybody else, that doesn't mean you're bad.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's negative. It just means you're not part of the majority.
Right, and it doesn't have to be.
Which again, we said is a term that's not necessarily good because you're not major.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying is that how are we reacting? That's going back to your point. How are we reacting to people that we deem different than ourselves? That has a lot to do with how they are then going to exist.
They're going to exist, and there's going to be something to focus negative attention on, which will create more negative response. And to me, I just, and I've thought about, what if, one of my children decided that they wanted to be with someone, of their own gender? Would I really not love them the same way? And those issues, and this is how we have to look at it. What difference does it make? He's alive, he's well, he's living, he's loving. I'm okay. Right. And we should be okay with, I just can't get that issue.
Yeah,
You'll never see me addressing that issue.
No, I'm with you on that one. All right.
People are people. I don't care what you do later
No,
on,
and that's such
Larry.
a small part. That's such a small part of who you are anyway.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. I can't care. I can't find myself.
No. I always found that interesting. When most people that are heterosexual, you don't think about who they're doing what with.
Yeah.
If you do, then you have an issue.
Yeah.
But so why are you thinking about what these folks are doing with whomever?
Right.
Why? Because it's
You wouldn't do it, or would you? Or maybe you're afraid that you might.
And what is? That's your own issue, really. You're projecting.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
All right. We figured it all out.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I have two quick questions for you because we only have a few more moments. Diane Boone, by the way, and she is a publisher, community activist, mother, organizer of the annual Festival of Unity that, if you're watching this before July 10th, is on July 10th at Nayaug Park from 10 until 8 p.m. And you can check out more at unityfestival.wordpress.com. Okay, what concerns you most at present? And what inspires you most at present?
What concerns me most is my own personal development. Concerns me most, so that I can inspire others. Really, I learned through this hard times that I went through that I needed to grow. I needed to master myself, because nothing's going to stop me from doing these things that I do, and I need to do them well. And I need to inspire people to know that, to begin to want to know who they really are. I'm not really this color that you see. I'm not really African American. I'm not really, but I am, how do you say it? I am a dynamic, active state of consciousness. And my consciousness is just like your consciousness. You want, you feel, you desire. We're all the same in a certain sense, and we all have power to work through that consciousness. But we are limited by what we call ourselves, or where we think we belong, or where we think we should go, or whether we, have a title behind our name, that mortarboard, Yeah. And limited like that. So right now, I'm mostly concerned with, really bringing forth who I really am and inspiring other people to do the same.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you, Diane.
You're
pleasure.
welcome.
Pleasure. See you soon.
Yes. I hope so.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. No, we have a lot of work to do together, and a lot of good conversation to have.
Yes.
All right, folks. Until next time, this is Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes. I'd like to thank my guest, Diane Boone, and our technical director, Anthony George, and Electric City TV as a whole. Right now, I'm going to read something for you, a little essay. Talk to you again in July.
Are you Buddha or more like Gouda? Is it intelligent or base belligerent? Do you see fit to personally benefit as you subject others to your manipulative ways? You can certainly smile and confidently pretend as you set it all up to end in a manner many will comprehend as suspicious, but you are a capable lech with the means to detach yourself from ethical, moral, reasonable behavior. You simply savor being in charge, living large, having the position, the attention, the seemingly high-touted posture of a player in these 21st century states claiming proudly to be united de facto as well as de jure. But I am tempted toward this circumspect assertion to demur. At the behest of those better angels often cited by those ideologues, truly and falsely alike, are we to believe in human altruism for goodness' sake solely, beyond self-gratifying paternalistic impulses, rooted in notions glorified, speaking of those living their lives wholly? To a fault, these personal quandaries and systemic fruits of deep-seated issues of control, rooted deeper still in our earliest modes of self-defense and self-preservation, possession and love and desire for our people, family and friends, to be the ones. Are we Buddha-wise or more like stink-pail full of green envy Gouda lies? I reflect and surmise with bias and pious alibis, or maybe just wild flowers in this spiritual heart. Thank you.